Welcome to this episode of the Alberta Bound podcast. My name is Sarah Hainsworth, mortgage broker and your guide to building wealth through real estate in Alberta. Today we're lifting the curtain on what actually happens behind the scenes of a mortgage. I'm joined by Kat, my fulfillment specialist, and the secret weapon who gets deals across the finish line. If you've ever been confused by mortgage paperwork or wondered what happens behind the scenes, you're not going to want to miss this episode. Welcome to the Alberta Bound podcast. My name is Sarah Hainsworth, mortgage broker and your guide to investing in real estate here in Alberta. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Kat, and if you've ever wondered what gives my mortgage business its edge, it's Kat. She's our fulfillment specialist and the driving force behind the scenes. Kat, do you want to just hop on and say hello?
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I mean, you're behind the scenes all the time, but it's nice to kind of put you in the forefront of the business because you really do a lot behind the scenes. And so, yeah, I'm happy to have you on today.
Yeah, thank you.
So Kat works behind the scenes of the business and she, like I mentioned, is the fulfillment specialist. So why don't you tell everybody what that means, like what your job kind of entails?
Yeah, so basically I make sure we collect all the documents that the lender is going to need throughout the process, which can get a little complicated and kind of heavy, but we try to keep it as simple as possible. Lenders do have very specific guidelines, so my job is basically to make sure that we stay within those guidelines and communicate with them throughout the process on how we can get the mortgage funded and show them all the confirmation that they need.
Well, I don't think people really know how much goes into the behind the scenes parts of it. Like the document collection is probably the most tedious part of doing mortgages.
Definitely.
Yeah, and you're the one that's in there, kind of in the weeds. I think your job is in the forefront, even though I'm kind of forward facing because you're in the background, like you're doing a ton of work behind the scenes.
And we don't always share that with clients because, it can get, pretty tedious and we don't want to worry everybody. So
I know, right? Well, and that's the thing is you do such a good job of giving like white glove service that clients don't actually know that sometimes we're like ducks on water and our feet are going underneath, but on the top we're calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that with you. Yeah. So on this episode, we're going to demystify the mortgage process, squash common misconceptions, and then kind of talk a little bit about lender guidelines that you might not know about. Let's start with an opener question. So what's one thing you wish everyone understood before starting the mortgage process?
So the mortgage process can be pretty complex from start to finish, whether clients see that side of it or not. There are a lot of little things that go into getting the approval. One of the major things being document collection. So something I wish everybody knew was that you should definitely talk to your mortgage broker before going shopping to obviously solidify your budget and also so we can start collecting everything that we need to ensure a smoother process and just less stress for everybody involved because, like I said, it is kind of tedious getting all those documents and most people, it takes them a bit of time to locate them, but being prepared, I think, is the best.
We're not just asking because we want to like bug the clients, right? Like, no. We're not going to ask them for something that they don't need.
Yeah,
so
we're always on the client side.
Yeah.
We won't ask anything that we don't need, but sometimes there's just no way around things. And even though it is tricky and annoying, we totally get it, but we need it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's maybe start at the beginning of the mortgage process and kind of understanding the mortgage journey. So for Emerald Mortgages, we are completely virtual, and that means that we're never going to be client facing. I think that's what makes us really good at our jobs and able to kind of pump out the capacity that we do. And I think that's something that maybe clients don't really know is that you can actually get a mortgage from the comfort of your own home. And even you and I, like, we're in different provinces. And so for us, like, this working relationship wouldn't really work if we had to be in the same city, which I'm so grateful for.
Yes.
Yeah. During the mortgage process, the first thing we do is we do the discovery call. And that's where I talk to clients and kind of dive deeper into their goals, what they're looking to accomplish, and then how we're going to do that. After the discovery call, that's when you kind of hop in and you let the clients know some of the documents that they're going to need. So Why don't you talk a little bit about what we need for documents and what type of clients require those documents?
Mhm. So the types of documents that we request does depend on your type of employment, whether you're self-employed or you're just employed hourly salary. So that does dictate what we need to collect from you. So during your discovery calls, when you kind of figure out those details. Also, when they fill out the online application, we have a bit of insight into what we need to collect. But for the most part, it is tax documents to show your income history for the past 2 years. So that's T4s, notice of assessments, which are pretty easy to access from your CRA portal. Somewhere that we get a bit of challenges is when we need to collect T1s. That's primarily for self-employed people, or if you have any real estate properties that you claim rental income on. That piece is definitely a non-negotiable for lenders. They need to collect that, but it is harder for clients to get if they don't use an accountant.
Yeah.
But I think that's always something that it's worth having organized, especially if you are self-employed or claim real estate income. Having those
Yeah.
accessible really makes things easier.
Yeah. So for somebody who's a regular employee, they get a T4. We're basically looking for just the last 2 years of T4 income and then pay stubs, letter of employment. And if it's a really clean file like that, that's probably all we need to
Yeah.
prove their income, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty easy. And then down payments verification, we just need to collect 3 months bank statements of the accounts that are holding the funds. If there's any large deposits, we might have to collect more bank statements. But if you have a savings account and have been saving for a while and it's just been sitting there, it's pretty easy to verify with 3 months bank statements.
Yeah. And then with self-employed income verification, we're looking for 2 years of T1 generals, corporate financials, articles of incorporation if they're incorporated, right?
Yeah.
And then for sole proprietor, is there anything different that we look for?
It depends on the lender. For the most part, they can just use the T1s. You'll claim it as business income.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll require, a year to date, what you're expected to make this year and ensure that that's still on track. But it does depend on the lender. Some are more lenient than others. But definitely, if you're just a sole proprietor, the T1s are the main piece that lenders need.
Yeah, and in our business, like we've worked out a way that if clients do work with an accountant, like we are more than happy to. And actually, I think we probably prefer to talk
It makes
directly.
things so much easier than all the
Yeah.
back and forth and making sure we get the right stuff. Accountants can just send it through in one go and they have easy access to those documents. So it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, the one thing that I will say was a little bit alarming was there's been a couple times that we've reached out to these accountants, and normally it's a free thing, they just hand them over, but we've had accountants that actually charge a fee for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which feels kind of silly in my opinion. I do understand it does take, a few minutes to collect the documents, but in terms of client experience, if my accountant did that as a free service, I would so appreciate it. And
Yeah.
it definitely increases my loyalty to them. Just makes everything easier for the client, which is the priority.
Yeah. I think having an accountant, whether you're self-employed or just an employee, is important because they know things that we don't as consumers and workarounds and ways to kind of work the tax system. So
Yeah.
if clients don't have an accountant, I would highly suggest that they do get one.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you have multiple rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not super knowledgeable on all the tips and tricks, but they definitely have ways to reduce your taxes and what you will
Yeah.
owe. So they have great insight.
They're smart like that. They're
Yeah,
experts. That's why.
exactly.
Yeah.
Expert in numbers. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And saving. I know like my accountant is worth his weight in gold, and I absolutely love the way that he's able to save me on my taxes. It's great.
Yeah. Makes a big difference at the end of the year come tax season.
Yeah. Let's talk about a few different income streams that clients don't know can actually work towards their purchasing power. So, childcare benefit is one. So,
Yeah.
if clients are receiving funds for their children, they can actually use that as verified income. So, do you know the guidelines behind the ages. Like, I think it definitely differentiates between lender, but as long as they're under 15.
Yeah, if they're under 15, they'll be able to use the income that you're getting from CCB. They do require that we give them their date of birth to confirm
Yeah.
that. Sometimes they'll ask for a birth certificate or something else confirming their date of birth. But if they're under 15, we can use that income towards your qualification.
Yeah, and then so all we're going to need is the childcare benefit statement and then, yeah, their birth dates. I know there's been times where clients have been skeptical, I guess, to hand over their children's birthday, but that's why we need it. We need to just
Yeah.
confirm that the children are going to be receiving that benefit. I think they want to see it for the term of the loan.
Yeah, which makes sense. Like they're expected that you are getting that income. And if that changes throughout your mortgage term, they do need to be aware of that. It makes sense. It is kind of weird having to give your kid's date of birth to get a
Yeah.
mortgage, but that's why we need it.
That's why we need it, yeah. What other types of income can we use to qualify a client?
Other than just employment income, we can use investment income, income from rental properties,
Yeah.
pensions, any pensions,
Yes.
whether they're private pensions or Canadian pension plans, CPP.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly to that, we can also use OAS income.
Yeah.
So all those together definitely make a big difference.
Yeah, and we can also use child support. We can use spousal support.
Yeah.
Stuff that you might not traditionally consider income, we can use. So maternity, right? Like maternity leave income, we can actually use as long as we have a return to work date. And I think there's a lot of people that maybe put the brakes on purchasing because they want to be back to work, but we can actually use their income without them being back to work just yet.
Yeah, well, it might be like reduced, like if you can only use a certain percentage of the income, like it still makes a difference and we can still use that income for sure.
Yeah, rental income for properties that are not yet rented. So if somebody is going to rent out their current owner occupied and purchase another property, we can actually use markets rent, which means the property doesn't have to be rented yet. But an appraiser comes out, which is also an additional cost to the client, appraises the market value of the rent. So they look and see, well, what's renting in the community for a similar property. And then usually we can use about 50% of that income to qualify the client. Now, if the client has a lease agreement in place, like for the property once they move out, then we can usually use a little bit more of that. But I don't think a lot of clients know they have options that way.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference in your borrowing power, just being able to account for that. And that's an extra, let's say, $2,000 a month in income that we can use on your application. And so it definitely helps.
Okay, so for your down payment, we did talk about it a little bit, but there are different ways that clients can access a down payment. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, so it can come from your own resources, which I think is what we most often see. People who have just been saving from employment income or investment income. But another way that I feel most people aren't aware of is that you can have gifted down payment funds, but they do have to be from an immediate family member. So your parents, grandparents, aunt or uncle. Lenders don't accept it from, family friends or anything like that. But if you have a family member that is gifting you some down payment funds, we can definitely use that.
It's pretty minimal what they ask for at that point, right? Like it's just the gifted down payment letter.
Yeah. So each lender has a personalized gift letter template, which just asks for basic information on the gifter and how much they'll be gifting you. It does also explicitly say that you're not expected to repay it. That's a big part of it, is that it's not a loan, it's a gift.
Right.
You're not expected to repay it. So yeah, we just need that gift letter signed by your family member and you. And then we just need confirmation that the funds have been deposited into your account. There have been times where the gifted funds aren't coming closer to the closing date. So in that case, if they're not being transferred yet, we can also typically use just a bank statement from the gifter's account showing that the funds are available. So it is a pretty easy way to verify down payment funds.
Yeah.
One big tip that I have is if you're planning on purchasing within the next 3-4 months, do your best not to move your down payment funds around. This will make well, our job easier, obviously, but also your job easier too, because
Yeah.
if you're transferring this money around, it's showing up in your bank statements as large deposits, and lenders need to trace the source of those deposits for the full 3 months. So rather than just sending us 3 months of one account bank statements, we might have to collect multiple accounts showing where that money has been. And it can quickly turn into a pile of paperwork and very complicated. So that's probably my biggest tip is, obviously, you're preparing to buy a home. Figure out which accounts that you want to hold your down payment funds in and try not to touch it for the 3 months leading up to it. It will make the process so much easier.
Yeah, that's great advice. So these are kind of all of the things that go on in the back end. Like when we're forward facing with clients, it is a pretty streamlined process. So they do the discovery call, we do the application, we get all the documents, and then I break down exactly what the clients are pre-approved for and break it down in a way that's understandable for them. So we do spreadsheets and budgeting. I don't ever want a client to be house poor, and it's something that I've said before because I've been in that position. So making sure that clients are fully aware of the cost of owning a home is huge. And that goes pretty far in our process. That way, when clients are putting in an offer, they know what to expect. They know that this is going to be X amount of dollars per month with the property taxes and then an idea of what utilities could look like. I think it just creates more confident buyers from our side of things.
Yeah. Another piece to that is closing costs. I feel especially first-time home buyers aren't always aware of some extra fees that you'll need to pay when buying a home. So that's lawyer fees, property transfer tax, if it's applicable, as well as an
Appraisals?
appraisal.
Yeah.
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 So, which can vary from $300 to $500. So I think it's great that we kind of front load that before we move along in the process. So it's not a surprise asking clients to foot a $500 appraisal when
Right.
they weren't aware or planning for that.
Yeah, and something else clients don't realize is that, a residential appraisal is a lot different than an acreage. When the appraiser has to go out to the acreage, they actually put a fee on that. So that's why they can go, I've actually seen over 500 on
Yeah.
appraisals.
Yeah, if it's a unique property, it can definitely boost up that price. Just less comparables, and it's just a harder job for the appraiser.
Okay, so we have a couple common misconceptions here. One of them is that you need a perfect score to get approved. Do you know the lowest score that we've gotten an approval on? I don't know the exact number, but I'm thinking definitely under 650.
Yeah, maybe like 630.
I was thinking even closer to like 600.
Yeah.
So I think clients that are kind of waiting to build their credit, they should hop on a call quickly because there have been times where credit scores have increased just by working with a credit specialist. And sometimes there's things reporting on your credit that aren't supposed to be there. And so
Yeah.
working with somebody who knows how to work that system is really important. Do you have any misconceptions or myths that you've heard about mortgages on your side?
Maybe not mortgages in particular, but maybe mortgage brokers. I feel like most people who have never worked with a broker, they don't realize that it doesn't cost them anything to work with us.
Yeah.
So there really should be no reason that you don't have a mortgage broker. If you're just going into a bank and getting a mortgage, you're limited to their products, which isn't necessarily the best fit for you. But by working with a mortgage broker, we have access to all the lenders plus additional monoline lenders. Like I said, it costs you nothing to have access to all these other lenders. So we get paid by a finder's fee from these lenders, but at the end of the day, we still work for you and you don't pay us anything.
That's so funny that you bring that up. It's true. I think years ago you had loyalty with a bank, and that meant that the bank was going to be loyal to you. That's not the case. Like,
definitely not.
they're not reaching out to people to say, hey,
No.
if you break your loan and switch lenders, you're going to save thousands, right?
Yeah. No. Banks have no loyalty to you.
No. And the other thing is
Unfortunately.
that they're punching the clock. Like, I don't really want to talk down about bankers specifically, but they work for the bank. Like, they're in the business of serving the bank.
Yeah.
Where that's not our reality. Like, we're
No.
here to serve the client, and that's how we build business, right? Like,
Exactly. Like, we're such a referral-based business that it is really in our best interest to find what works best for you and prioritize your needs rather than, our own agenda and pushing products that aren't necessarily a fit for you.
Yeah, and the other thing is timing, right? Like we are somewhat bound to banker hours when it comes to submission, but we're working all the time. So if
Yeah.
there's a client that, works a different schedule and isn't able to hop on a call till 8 o'clock at night, like we can help them.
Yeah.
Where at a bank, I mean, they're not really open that late. Not that I know of anyways. I feel like they're 8 to 4, 9 to 4 maybe.
Yeah. Well, and to circle back to like our solely virtual process that
hmm
allows us to be more flexible because, yeah, we do work with the banks during traditional business hours, but a lot of client communication is done after hours because we know that they have 9 to 5 jobs and can't always hop on a call. So just having that virtual aspect and not needing clients to come into an office or something makes it more flexible for them too.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and having the application right at their fingertips, right? Like they're able to fill it out on their terms, on their timeline.
Yeah.
Granted, we don't love to have applications sitting in limbo,
Yeah.
but I mean, if need be, they can, and they can hop on it when it's comfortable for them.
Yeah, totally.
So, another misconception that I hear often from self employed people is, well, they can't get a mortgage because they haven't been qualified in the traditional sense when it comes to a major bank. So, a lot of people think that they can't get a mortgage. Well, that's not true. I think probably self employed clients are my favorite ones to work with. Number one, because they think outside of the box.
Yeah.
They're entrepreneurs usually. I mean, they're working for themselves, so they've got to have some kind of like skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to thinking about finances, I find that they generally think a little bit differently. And they really come to us because the bank has probably said no, or, you need to claim more money, but we have different lender guidelines that allow us to service business for self clients that don't fit into regular bank lending.
Yeah, I find a lot of self-employed people also really good at getting us documents just because they
Yes.
are
Yes.
in charge of all of their, paying themselves and everything. So they are generally more knowledgeable on tax documents, which is super helpful. But yeah, like you said, we have access to a lot of, specific programs for self-employed people that doesn't put you at a disadvantage, which I don't think, the big banks really prioritize self-employed people.
I think you're right. I think that they're missing an opportunity there, which I'm glad that we can help those
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
No. Okay, so now we've worked through the process. We've done the discovery call. We've collected documents. We've hopped on that strategy call where I've broken down the custom proposal for the clients and gone through each of the dollar amounts that they can expect to pay when they go to purchase their home. And now the client has an accepted offer. So they come to us. The realtor generally will send us their accepted offer. And this is kind of when we really get to work. And so when we go to submit to a lender for final approval, what do we need?
So we need the income documents, whether you're self-employed or employed.
They also need to be current, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So lenders generally require that they are current within 30 days for the letter of employment and pay stubs. So it's possible, depending on when we did your pre-approval and your budget proposal, that we might need to collect a few updated documents. So yeah, we need the employment income documents as well as down payment documents. So again, we might need to get some updated bank statements. They do need to be the most recent 3 months statements. So a few updated documents there. We generally provide a void check for the account that your mortgage payments are going to come from.
Well, I think at this point, some clients get a little bit antsy because they're worried. They're like, well, hey, you know what? I already provided you that. Why do
Yeah.
you need it again? Right?
Yeah.
We're not asking just because it's fun for us. Like, we
Yeah.
need these, right?
Yeah, we don't love asking for these documents twice. It's
Yeah.
it's definitely not ideal, but when it comes to your pre-approval, we do need those documents to ensure that it's accurate. So, depending on when you find a property, we do need to collect updated ones for the lender, but yeah, your budget and we know that we can get it done with a lender because we had
Right.
those documents previously.
Right. So, okay, so we've got our accepted offer. Now we've collected all of the updated documents if we need them. And then we are submitting to the lenders, which is again virtually. So everything is online, super convenient. And then basically, once we have the documents submitted, the lender comes back to us with what they call a conditional approval. And do you want to talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, so once the lender agrees to proceed with the mortgage, your conditional approval consists of like a personalized list of conditions that we need to satisfy in order for the mortgage to fund. So that might be some follow-up requests about your employment. Generally, they will do a verbal confirmation with your employer. That's a common follow-up. They might inquire about some large deposits in your down payment statements. So generally, any deposits over $2,000 that aren't obviously like a payroll deposit, they will need to see where those funds came from, just to ensure that they are still from your accounts and that it is your money that's just being transferred around.
And this is where the appraisal condition would come in likely as
Yes.
well. Yeah.
Yes, that too. Like I said, it's personalized. So it is just the lender doing their due diligence and, checking all the boxes so that we can fund this properly. And then once we satisfy all the conditions, it's pretty much done.
Well, yeah, and then you remove your condition of finance, and then that means, I guess, that the property is now sold.
Yeah.
So there are times where, as brokers, we have to remove that condition of finance prior to being broker complete. And depending on the client, there is a level of risk involved, but we're always going to make sure that the client knows what that risk is. And I mean, there's times where probably the condition of finance had been removed. Maybe it was a little riskier than others, but making sure that the
Yeah.
clients know what that looks like.
Yeah. In an ideal world, we're broker complete before your condition of financing day, but especially in, you know, when you find a really good property and you really want it, we want to stay within that deadline of you still being able to remove subjects. And sometimes that comes with risk, but yeah, we always let you know that there is risk involved, but we wouldn't advise you to remove subjects if we weren't confident that we could get something done.
Now that we're talking a little bit about risk, as mortgage brokers, we are obligated by law to offer something called mortgage protection insurance. And I think that also catches some clients off guard because obviously we're not insurance experts. I'm not here to sell you insurance and neither are you, but
No.
it is something that is important. I think that we talk a little bit about mortgage protection insurance. It's probably one of the easiest ways to qualify for mortgage protection. The process of it is really streamlined, and basically you apply or you waive it, and the fees are really, really manageable. I mean, comparatively to other products. And so clients
Definitely.
have the option just once their commitment comes through to either accept or decline the mortgage protection insurance. And what it's going to do is if something happens, there's life and disability portions to it, but what the client gets to do is decide, hey, do I want the life portion or the disability portion or both? And if they are unable to make their mortgage payment for a number of different reasons, then they are actually covered, which I think is pretty cool. And I'm grateful that we get to offer that to clients.
Yeah, it's a great product and they have the free 30-day trial period. So
Right.
if anything, if you're still exploring insurance products, it's a good thing to have in the meantime, just to make sure that you're covered until you find something that better suits you or you talk to an insurance broker. But there really is no commitment to continue with it if you find something better. So there isn't really a downside to applying
Right.
for it.
Yeah, because there's the free 30 days and then there's a 60-day money back guarantee.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
What's your go-to productivity hack at work?
Other than coffee, definitely my calendar. I put everything in there. I write everything out, or chances are I might forget. So I am very anal about making sure I write everything down. So I think our CRM definitely helps with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, having our automated to-do list to make sure that we don't forget anything,
Yes.
that helps our productivity for sure.
Yeah, our CRM is a huge part of business. Like there's so many times where I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right. I had to do that or that.
Yeah.
It really keeps us on track.
What's your productivity hack?
I also have my calendar, which is a massive whiteboard that way. I have a huge whiteboard over here, which you can't see, but having things written down for me is huge. Setting goals and making sure that I'm staying on the forefront of technology, because technology is huge. One of the biggest things that we do for our clients is like the monthly digest that goes out. So not only are we facilitating the funding process, we're staying with the client after funding. And
Yeah.
so each one of our client gets a digest each month that breaks down what their property is currently worth, any interest savings they potentially have, and it gives them access to current information each month. So it's sending out a digest each month saying, hey, if you wanted to break your mortgage right now, you could save X amount of dollars by doing so. Or it's like, no,
Yeah.
you can't save money, so stay
Yeah.
where you're at. The other thing is it's showing equity. Like clients don't realize, especially here in Alberta, like we are building equity pretty quickly.
Hmm.
So it's giving clients just some insight to their property as a whole.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's, reassurance that we are keeping an eye on your mortgage behind the scenes, and
Hmm.
just another benefit of having a mortgage broker. Like the
Yeah.
banks don't do that for you.
No, they definitely don't.
Yeah. And I feel like you're so good at looking for these new tech things. Yeah, you're always coming
Yeah.
to me with like, hey, I found this, I found this. This would be so great for our clients. So you're always thinking about what makes it easier for the clients, which I think
Yeah.
is awesome.
Thank you. I love that side of the business. That's probably what drives me is like, what can we do to make it simpler for the client? How can we explain this in a way that they understand so that they're aware of not only their options, but what they're getting themselves into with a mortgage? Because it's huge. Like, this
Yeah.
is hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's probably the biggest loan you will ever have in your life. So
Exactly.
it's a big step. It's a big milestone too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it definitely is. So, a couple things that we integrate into our business obviously is our CRM, which is huge. We have like booking links, we have our monthly digest that goes out, but we also use a lot of video. And I think that clients can really appreciate the video because they can come back to it, right? So, we're sending out the signing package, we're sending out a video alongside it. When I'm doing the budget breakdown and the custom proposal, I'm sending a video with it so that clients can have it at their fingertips. They can revisit it. They can go over it as many times as they want. Because I know when I got my first mortgage, I was just so flippin' excited that
Yeah.
the guy said whatever. And I said, yep, sign here.
Yeah,
And then I didn't really know what I was getting myself into.
totally.
Yeah, so for our clients, I think it's wonderful because not only do they know, but they might be really excited. And then when things have kind of had time to settle, they can go back and look and say, hey, this is what this meant at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while we appreciate the trust and just blindly signing what we send you, I think it's also a good idea to be informed on
Yes.
what you are signing. And that is the purpose of the video, rather than just sending you like 7 documents to sign. It comes with a video of me walking you through each document and a brief overview of what it is. So including the commitment, kind of go down, where the numbers are listed and where you need to sign, and prepayment privileges as well,
Yeah.
where you can find information on that. But also, as mortgage brokers, we do have compliance documents that we need for regulators. And I think rather than just sending those out and getting the clients to sign it, it is nice letting them know exactly what they're signing.
Yeah. And I think the video is just so nice to be able to have that and go over it. And yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I didn't talk about too was Emily. So Emily is
Yeah.
new to our team, but she is definitely an asset and she is behind the scenes as well. Once a mortgage funds, she's actually calling the clients 7 days after their mortgage funds just to check in, make sure that everything is buttoned up the way it was supposed to, and then also to make sure that the clients have a direct line to somebody who can pick up the call if something comes up.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been a wonderful addition to like Emerald Mortgages as a whole. The other thing she's doing is she is facilitating any introductions to experts that we haven't had an opportunity to do yet. So of course we do the MPP and the clients, generally they accept it. But what we like to do after they've accepted that is introduce them to a financial planner, because, we've put them in the biggest liability of their life. And so, we've done this on the debt side. We want to make sure that they have somebody managing the asset side. And so she's calling and she's doing the introductions to anybody that wants to have one of those free consultations. And that has been wonderful. The other thing is like accountants, right? We talk about how important accountants are to, saving money and taxes. And so if there ever is an opportunity for a referral that way, she's able to talk to the clients and say, hey, we noticed during your application process that you don't actually work with an accountant. Is that something that you would be interested in doing? And so facilitating those expert relationships outside of just the mortgage. So we're kind of like a one-stop shop for everything that you need.
Yeah, definitely. And those connections are really important because your mortgage can definitely be used as a financial tool. So I think once you get a mortgage, if you haven't spoken to a financial planner, that's definitely a conversation that you should have. And yeah, we definitely have some great partners that we refer to.
Yeah, we have a relationship with them and we're not just handing you to some Joe Blow, right? Like,
Yeah.
the thing is, like, every part of the process is so important. Having the right lawyer is like gold. And we know this because we have worked with some pretty wonderful lawyers and let's just say some not so wonderful lawyers.
Yes. And as like that's the last step in your mortgage, like that also needs to go properly and seamlessly so that we can fund on time. And that's out of our control. So we definitely have our preferred lawyers to work with.
Yeah, I know. Shout out Christina.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's definitely like we can make or break a deal based on the lawyer involved at the very end of a transaction, right?
Yes.
It can be smooth sailing all the way up until that date. And we actually ran into this, I think, twice last week. It was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the same day, something was in the air. But I will acknowledge that sometimes we don't make it easy on lawyers because we get them the mortgage instructions and it is a really quick turnaround. So just so everybody knows, lawyers want to have them about 10 business days before your closing date. But there have definitely been times where we have like cut that in half and lawyers have still been able to get it done. So they play a huge part in the process.
Well, that is a wrap. And I'm so grateful that you came on to chat a little bit more about the behind the scenes process because you're not as forward facing, but you are such a huge part of the business. It's nice to hear your voice and get your expertise. So thank you, Kat, for joining us on Alberta Bound today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great. Always a pleasure working with you.